Good evening, everyone. I'm going to ask you to please take your seats. I'm going to ask that you please silence or turn off your cell phones. Good evening and welcome to the Utility Safety and Environment Committee meeting for Wednesday, March 8th, 2023. The first item on our agenda is the approval of the Utilities Committee meeting minutes of February 8th, 2023. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
It was moved by Mr. Oswald, second by Mrs. Davis. Are there any questions?
Question.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The second item on our agenda is the matter of adding an additional baseball field to South Park. Director Reardon.
Thank you, through you, Chair. So this, as I was just telling the gentleman, this is for South Park. This will be pretty close. The outfields will butt up to the one that's already there. So this is just an additional field based on feedback from South T-Ball Club, and they're expanding their numbers and everything. We were, wanting to add something out there, and this money has been appropriated already, so we would just like to put it out to bid.
Thank you, Mrs. Reardon. Are there any questions for Director Reardon? Mrs. Davis?
Through you, Madam Chair. So if you add the new baseball field, so what are you losing?
Through you, Chair, just green space. There's nothing there right now.
Beneficial for the community?
Sorry?
It'd be beneficial for the community?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Mrs. Simmons, did I see your hand up?
No.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Oswald?
Through you, Madam Chair. So money's in the budget and all that? Okay, great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see a problem.
Thank you. Mr.
Oh, I thought Amanda had her hand up. I'm
I'm
sorry.
sorry.
I thought Amanda had her hand up.
Amanda, Mrs. Deary?
Oh,
Just go ahead.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. Director Reardon, are you looking for an emergency on this to get the ball, sorry, bad pun, to get this going? Quicker.
so
sooner
this
rather than later?
one, I'm sorry, through you, Chair, this one does not, as CDBG money has not been released yet. So part of it is CDBG, part of it is issue 6. So I don't see a reason for the emergency at this time.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bowens, would you like to come up and have a word? This is Eric Bowens, and I don't know if you run but he's involved with the South Park baseball program, and he's going to give just a brief synopsis of what the South Park baseball does. Mr. Bowens, if you'll state your name and address for the record, please.
Eric Bowens, 159 Taft Avenue. Greetings, everyone. I am here representing Elyria South Baseball Club. We will be entering our third season this year. Our first season, we had over 80 participants, and we actually raised fundraising for the community over $12,000. The community, we've done glove drives the first year to make sure that every child had a glove. The community provided a glove drive, so everybody that participated did receive a glove. And we're going into our third year again. Our second year, we were able to have over 120 participants, and so we went from 12 teams our first year to 8 teams our first year to 12 teams. This year, we'll be going into 15 teams, which we're going to add kids pitch, 2 kids pitch ages, different ages, and also softball. So those would be additional. But we also have had some issues with, field use. So we are very pleased to be here to be able to expand. And just wanted to say that we're growing very fast. The community seems to support us a lot. We have quite a few people here from our organization out here supporting, as you can see. And we're just pleased to be in the presence of the city to have this opportunity to expand and grow. And just want to thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Bowen. Mr. Bowen, didn't you guys run out of space last year and you used Westfield? Is that correct?
Yeah. So with the additional teams that we're adding this year, the hot stove teams, there will be no room for them. When we get opening day out there, that park is packed. Literally no parking for folks. So I know last year we had an incident where some people were parking in the grass, and we were trying to avoid all that, and somebody actually got their car towed away, and it was just kind of a big kind of an issue where we could have avoided it. Well, we actually couldn't avoid it with our space. So expanding definitely would help us. It's just packed. We got grandparents, we have parents, and we do a trailblazer salute to those that came before us, and we want to make sure that, that they all have room. So we have been given the permission to use West Park, but we definitely want to home it in South Park so that way everybody can participate.
Thank you. Don't leave yet. Are there any questions for Mr. Bowen? Mr. Sarah?
Through you, Madam Chair, actually maybe more for Terry, but Little League North over there, I don't know what's going on with that at this point in time with those new fields, or not new anymore, but
Yeah, through you, Chair. So those fields actually are being utilized, not, 7 days a week, but I've been in contact with East Little League, which I know they still kind of go by East, but they're all, combined into one. So they do use those as an overflow when they need space, mainly for practices, when they don't have it, Vic Janowitz, if they don't have room. So, but that is an option because we can, work on the scheduling with both. I know Eric and them, obviously, as they're, going through this, I think they're learning some things, and with a little bit of change in their scheduling, I think they're going to be able to utilize, South a little bit better as far as putting the games during the week and things like that, and that will cut down a little bit on, like he said, there's no room out there. But yeah, I think between South and West, and if North is needed, there's some room there that we can put them.
thank you. And then just one comment for Mr. Bowens. I appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you.
Former president of Little League North, I know some of the perils that you have to go through, so you and your volunteers kudos to you.
Thank you, sir.
Absolutely.
Appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Indeed. And I will say, in regards to North, because we have had some coaches practice, it's just kind of a transportation issue for a lot of our children. A lot of our children live in the neighborhood, and they can walk over to the park, so we just want to make sure it's convenient, and, yeah.
I understand.
Yes, sir.
Don't leave, Mr. Bowen. Ms. Simmons?
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. I'd just like to again reiterate to thank you, Mr. Bowens, and your staff for all that you do for the Fifth Ward, because it is sorely needed. And if there's anything I can do, all you gotta do is call me.
Okay. Thank you.
Mrs. Davis?
Through you, Madam Chair, and to Mr. Bowens, I'm sorry that you don't want to utilize the west side and get our kids involved. But, the park is open to you to use on the west side as well.
Yes, ma'am.
And there is plenty of parking.
Yes.
Thank you.
I will say, Madam Davis, that there will be hot stove games at West Park. So we definitely want you to come out. Because of our lack of space, we had to expand for this upcoming year to play at West Park. So we're bringing baseball back to the west side for a little bit. So we love to see you out there.
Thank you all. Before we go any further, welcome, Mr. Mayor. I don't usually see you at the utilities meeting, so thank you for coming. And thank you to all of the residents who took the time out to come this afternoon. Are there any more questions for Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, since I was being low key over here, so
I
yeah,
saw you. I saw you.
this is something that we've seen from the beginning, and I just wanted to be here to make sure I was showing support and answer any questions if there may be any questions. But I'm glad to see there's so much support.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the mayor? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Bowens. Thank you, Ms. Reardon. Seeing none, I'll read the committee report. We have considered the matter of adding an additional baseball field to South Park, and this is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to advertise for bids and award a contract for said park project. Funds have been appropriated in the 2023 Parks budget. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Simmons, second by Mrs. Davis. Is there any other discussion?
Question.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next item on the agenda is the matter of creating a multi-purpose field at South Park to better utilize certain programs. Mrs. Reardon.
Thank you, through you, Chair. So this was a project that's actually a rollover from last year that did not get put out to bid, so the money's already there, it's CDBG money, so we're just asking that we're able to put this out to bid. There is, it's green space, and Mini Pioneers utilizes it right now. There's some drainage issues, and it's just not very level. So that's what we want to do, is we want to fix the drainage so there's no standing water, and then level out the surface. So we say multi-purpose field because it can be used for many different things. Right now, it's the area that Mini Pioneers is utilizing.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mrs. Reardon? Seeing none, I'll read the committee report. We have considered the matter of adding a multi-purpose field to South Park. This is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to advertise for bids and award a contract for said park project. This project is part of the park's master plan, and funds have been appropriated in the 2022 CDBG dollars. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
It was moved by Mrs. Simmons, second by Mr. Oswald. Any other discussion?
Question.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The next item on our agenda is the matter of adding a parking lot and walkway at Washington Village Park. Director Reardon.
Thank you, Chair, through you. So this is another project, and this is, you know, we've had the houses added over there off of Fowl Road. So, you know, you brought, it's been a little bit, but you brought it up that there is no really way for, you know, those people to get to the park. It's all just curb. So what engineering has come up with is a great setup. There will be a small parking lot, few cars, but also walkways that will allow, you know, bikes, walkers, all those things to access the park. We were awarded a grant for this, so $38,388. It's a reimbursable grant, but the money has been appropriated, so we will get half of that back. So we're just looking to go out to bid for this.
Thank you. For those that don't know, Washington Park is right off of Fowl Road, and there is a new housing development, Fairfield Estates, and the kids, if it were raining or the ground was wet, they would literally have to walk all the way around the park. So what I'd like to see is a small sidewalk that goes through the park to the basketball courts, the playground, and so forth and so on. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Chairwoman. That's exactly what I was gonna recommend, so we're on the same page. It definitely needs some sort of sidewalk in
Yes, sir.
addition to that walkway for sure, so thank you for mentioning that.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mrs. Reardon? Seeing none, I'll read the committee report. We have considered the matter of adding a parking lot and walkways at Washington Village Park. I'm sorry, my mind went somewhere else. This is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to advertise for bids and award a contract for said park project. This park project is part of the park's master plan, and funds have been appropriated in the 2023 parks budget. Issue 6 funds will be used along with a Nature Works grant that was recently awarded to the city. Emergency clause requested. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Davis, second by Mrs. Simmons. Is there any other discussion?
Question.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The next item on our agenda is the matter of the rail industry and hazardous material. Councilmember Callahan.
Okay, Madam Chairman, thank you for that. And before I get started real quick here, I want to thank Mrs. Mitchell and Mrs. Davis for co-sponsoring this referral. As we all know, the train derailment last month was very tragic. Local first responders in East Palestine were not aware of chemicals and hazardous materials that were going to go through their town. Communication needs to improve. This is why I'm supporting, along with others, a resolution asking railroad companies to notify local first responders as to when chemicals and hazardous materials will be transported through Elyria and surrounding communities. This is a reasonable request to the railroad companies. It's basic and it's simple. It could be in a form of a text message. It's all about safety. If the firefighters in East Palestine had known ahead of time that chemicals were on that train, it would have made their job a little bit easier. But so many people were exposed to the chemicals, and that's very tragic. I hope you can support this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Callahan. Are there any questions for Mr. Callahan? Mr. Oswald.
Through you, Madam Chair. It always seems like it's so easy. I hope it is, because you would think that they could just send out a text and let you know.
Right.
So hopefully they can, and why they haven't done this already,
Right.
you know, is beyond us, but thanks.
Yeah, well, thank you, through you, Madam Chair. You're right. Even the governor of the state of Ohio, Mike DeWine, is asking the same question. Why? Why can't they send out a message? Our two senators, Senator Sherrod Brown and Senator Vance, are asking the same question. Why? And it should be simple. A text message with technology nowadays, my God, we're texting each other as we sit here sometimes. So, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to ask Mr. Corzan, the superintendent of the wastewater, if he would come up. He shared some information with me that I think you guys will find interesting and helpful.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. This is just a sidebar to this conversation, and you know what you're talking about is really spot on. But we received an email from Governor DeWine's office today stating that Norfolk and Southern is looking to set up a training center in Ohio for first responders to train how to approach rail derailments and that kind of stuff, and other types of incidents. They haven't decided on a location for that yet, but they've, in the email from Governor DeWine, it stated that they were going to start training on March 22nd at their Bellevue yard. So just want to make sure that everybody's aware of that. I forwarded that email to Chief Prenesti in the fire department, and I also just forwarded it to the council clerk's office, so that everybody can get a copy of that email. That's all I have.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Corzan? Seeing none, I'll read the committee report. We have considered the matter of proposed legislation asking railroad companies to notify local first responders when chemicals and hazardous materials will be transported through Elyria and surrounding communities. This is a resolution authorizing the said proposed legislation. Can I get a motion, please?
So move.
Second.
It was moved by Mrs. Davis, second by Mrs. Simmons. Is there any other discussion?
Question.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. So now, this is my favorite part of what we do here at Utilities, streets. I think, and I've said this 900,000 times, I think the most important thing that we as ward council people do is our resident streets. I think that's very important, and I think we try very hard, very, very hard to work with the money that we've been given. Right now, our budget is $2 million. It's nothing. I mean, I'll personally take $2 million. You know, I can make that work. But when you're talking about doing a street, and as we go through this, you will see how much it costs to do a street. So this is tonight, we're just having a discussion. We're not formally voting on anything. This is a process that we go through every year, but we're just gonna get the process starting. So having said all of that, Mrs. McKillop.
Thank you, Madam Chair, through you. The draft list that has been compiled through either, you know, the ride-alongs with Mr. Forthover over here. He's being shy. And recommendations from our street department. We've listed all those streets on a spreadsheet and calculated an estimate for each of those to give you an idea of the cost of the rehabilitation, whether it would be a mill and fill with asphalt or concrete repairs for those concrete streets. As you can see, the total for those residents and the total on the list across all 7 wards is currently $4.3 million. And that's for all the streets that we went through, we have on the list, put numbers together, and like I stated, that's the list that we're looking at right now, and we're looking to shorten that to something that, you know, fits within the budget. As Madam Chair stated, we currently have approximately $2 million for this year. And if by chance additional funds get allocated to this project, that will obviously help with the overall, drivability of our streets here in the city of Elyria. So, Madam Chair, I'm not sure how you want to do this. I know this is for discussion only, but, did you want to go ward by ward? Do you want to look at?
Let's start ward by ward. But before we begin, Mr. Forthover, thank you so much. Doing the ride-alongs with you was so incredibly helpful. And I've been doing this a long time, and I thought I knew all about streets and what to look for, and I learned so much. So we really appreciate it and look forward to doing it again next year. Having said that, the Ward 1 council member is not here, so we're going to skip him. And I will advise him that at the next utilities meeting, that if he can come so that he can make his street desires known. We'll start with Ward 2, Mrs. Davis. Ms. McKillop, excuse me, Ms. Davis, how much is that divide per ward out of that 2 million? How much do we get?
Up to
250,000.
270 something?
almost 280,
280?
is that the number? I believe, yeah.
So we each get $280,000. Let's see what we can do with it. Okay, Mrs. Davis, I'm sorry, go right ahead, please.
Through you, Madam Chair. So I see, Meadowfield Court, where it's the concrete at the cul-de-sac only. Is there any possible way that that can be done in-house? Instead of bidding it out? It's just patches of area, of course you would know, patches of area that, why couldn't we do that in-house?
There is quite a bit of concrete that does need to be cut out, and poured. I don't know, Mr. Forthover?
I would echo that.
Mr. Lundy, I'll remind you to go through the chair. Thank you.
Okay. Well, through you, Chair, I see that one. And also, so Middlefield at the court, Middlefield Court, so that has concrete, we're now going to turn that area into asphalt. It's a small section from the cul-de-sac out to the street.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And, one big mistake that we see, if you would look over on Ward 6, my Clinton Avenue from Lake Avenue to Bale, it was put in the wrong spot, but.
Yeah, that's Ms. Davis.
Okay, got it.
Okay, so by it being in the orange, is that trying to be a secondary?
That is up to you. The streets in orange, were recommended by our street department based on the amount of patching and maintenance that they put into those, streets. So I put it on there with a number attached. If, we can make it an alternate, we can, bring it in as one of your streets. It's up to you.
So, and so I'm glad that the citizens are here. When you look at, Clinton Avenue from Lake Avenue, and it just curves around to Bell Avenue at the railroad tracks, 93,000. If I only got 280,000, I just mentioned 3 streets and my money is gone already. And I haven't touched the other part, but, so I'm just curious though, I'm sure this is not concrete at 93,000, this is blacktop, I hope. Is that correct, Mrs.?
Let me double check. That's concrete repairs.
Repairs?
Mm-hmm.
Well, can we go back and try to do an overlay? Because that whole street from Lake Avenue to Bell is bad.
We can check that.
Yes, I would like to check that. And then moving on, David Drive. I really want the mall to fix it because it's so connected. All those trucks that drive in there, going into to the mall area at the grocery store, is there any kind of way we can they can compensate us, or they say they're paying taxes, and so we have to fix their drives?
Well, this specific drive is actually, the city's right away. So this is, yeah, it's not a private drive. If it was a private drive, we would not even be looking at it.
Okay. So David Drive, Clinton Avenue, Bond from Lake Avenue to Adams, and I don't want concrete, all those trucks coming in there for those factories along there. So that concrete is, or you talking about repairs, so we just need to do an overlay. When we fill the holes now, we just using asphalt, so I just, from Lake Avenue to the tracks, down to Adams, no concrete. Let's see if we can have that overlaid.
Well, we'll have to look at the condition of the concrete, because even if we decide to do an asphalt overlay, the concrete that the asphalt's gonna have to sit on is gonna have to still be solid and good condition. So there may be, and off the top of my head, I don't know, but there may be concrete repairs, and the same thing with Clinton. We'll have to look and see if the concrete is good enough to use as a base for the asphalt overlay, just so you know.
Ms. Davis, you're at 281,000.
Well, Sheriff Street has to be done. Sheriff Street has to be done. We're going to talk about it.
You're at 2,200. Sheriff Street will take you over.
But they don't know how much these others are going to cost.
That's true.
So we know for sure Sheriff Street is going to be like number one, and the other ones are all questionable.
Okay.
Due to the fact that of my suggestion of using asphalt versus the concrete.
Okay.
Okay?
All righty, sounds good. Are there any other ones that you want them to look at? Or,
well, the West River at the mall, that's just repairs.
Yeah, that number right there, the 45,000, that's just the intersection area. So that's a big job. I mean, with traffic control and stuff like that, so.
is there any way with that we could partner with whoever owns the mall these days?
I'm telling you,
I mean, we could ask, all they could say is no.
Yeah.
Okay. Ms. Davis, are you done, or?
No, I want to switch out that mall concrete repair with Moran. Asphalt right there, Griswold and Midway.
I don't see that. Okay. Okay, Morgan Street.
They don't call it Moran.
Okay.
Are we moving numbers up here?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Are
you trying to add it up? Okay.
Yeah, but you're way over, so.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all right. I intend to get more money.
I hear you. Yes,
All
ma'am.
right.
We can ask. Thank you, Mrs. Davis. Mr. Corbin, Ward 3.
Through you, Madam Chair. I also would like to thank Mr. Forthofer. We had a great time. I learned a lot. I knew nothing. If there was a pothole, I would call someone, it would get fixed. But boy, I'll tell you, Bill, we stopped all over the place and he explained what needed to be done. Do not lose this gentleman. He was great. All of my streets add up to $239. I'm looking for another $40,000 of streets that need to be repaired. So between now and the next meeting, I will traverse streets. I have not gotten any phone calls from streets, you know, my street needs to be repaired. I have not gotten any. I do get telephone calls about traffic at Chestnut Commons, but not about street repairs. So the city, I think, especially replacing potholes, have done an excellent job. So thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome, and if you can't find that 40,000, we'll spend it for you. We got you. Mr. Oswald, Ward 4.
Through you, Madam Chair. If Mr. Forthover could come up to the podium and explain something for me, please.
He's doing that on purpose.
We're in between a rock and a hard place, over at ours. And we mainly have, except for Berkeley, the rest of them are concrete. You know, we were back and forth on how we were going to figure Pepperdine as far as concrete or just do it all in black top, strip it, whatever. First off, can we start on that and tell me how you kind of figured that one? Which way did you end up going?
So the Pepperdine one is kind of interesting, Kenny. You've got some long longitudinal cracks in your street as well as cracks going the other way. So we basically took into consideration all of the cracks on your street, and we'll do a 3.5 feet wide by however long they are, and basically cut it up like Swiss cheese to get it put back together.
Through you, Madam Chair. So when I was looking at that, you know, if we could shave that number down by doing maybe some of the chunks and just crack fill some of those others that you were talking about to be more frugal. And then same way as far as, I don't know how far you figured Winthrop, but if we could do the same thing, because I think that might be a couple chunks. So I guess what I'm saying is on those, I'd like to keep all those on there, but let's see how we can do some of those, maybe size them back or do the best we can with the money that we got.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Forthover. Ward 5, Mrs. Simmons.
Through you, Madam Chair, I, like you, think that more money is needed for the streets. We're rolling out like a beautification program, and our streets look like crap. I have a question for Holly Lane. Why are we putting concrete there? Couldn't we just put asphalt to bring down the numbers? Because...
Is it already concrete? Holly Lane.
I keep getting calls from a certain person from the church over there, but that's, I mean, it's gonna be hard because for sure, like Howe and Wooster are just ridiculous. And I'm gonna need some more money, that's what I'm gonna need. I mean, it's hard, and I have residents that have called me and came over to my house from Wayne Street, and they say Wayne Street is just as bad as State. But they have to realize that every street can't get done at one time. So, I talked to Mr. Snyder, and he said he would look at, Wayne Street, but in the end, it's my decision. But mine is $486,000. And I mean, it's gonna be hard, because if you do one and then, like I say, Wooster and Howe, they're ridiculous. And so, I don't know, I just want some more money from somewhere. I wish the mayor was still here.
He left.
We need some more money.
I would agree. Unfortunately, we have to work with what we're given. We have to pick, I mean, I hope we can get more money. We're definitely gonna ask. We're staying outside his door with our hands out. But we have to work with what we're given, and we have to pick the streets that are the worst of the worst. And, I mean, I remember the days back when we were lucky if we got $20,000 to work with, and we got one street done in each ward. So, you know, we're very fortunate. Thank you for issue 6. Because of issue 6, we're able to do so many streets, so we appreciate you residents voting for issue 6, and we hope you'll keep supporting it, because we are doing what we said and getting residential streets done. And I'll get off my soapbox now. Mrs.
So
Simmons?
I just have one more thing. Do you think, which is the worst, State Street or Holly Lane?
I would say Holly Lane, because it costs more.
I would say Holly Lane, but as far as traffic goes, that I'm not sure.
One thing I want to remind you, Mrs. Davis, your question, when we did our ride-along, I explained to you that a lot of these streets, if we just resurface them and they're concrete underneath, the concrete is so bad that even if we're going to do asphalt overlay, we have to go through the process and fix the bad concrete joints first, because remember I said reflective cracking. So if we just pick one of the streets that you said, if we overlay Holly Lane, in a year or two, it'll all crack up. It's so out of whack. So we almost have to do concrete repairs first before we do the asphalt overlay. So as we've discussed it in the office, do we just stick with the concrete repairs and kind of go with it instead of overlaying it? I know it's easier and it's instant gratification to overlay, but in the long run, the concrete repairs will pay off. So on Holly Lane, maybe we can go through and pick the worst spots to appease the church, because I know the church has been complaining for quite a few years that the parishioners are having to walk through it and all that. Maybe we pick a section by the church and get that straightened up, and then maybe we don't look as hard at the rest of the street for this year, and then we can revisit it next year.
Okay. We see how much that will cost just to do the section where the church.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Simmons. Mr. Sear, I'm going to let you go ahead of me. Ward 7.
To you, Madam Chair, a couple of comments. One, first of all, I do have a referral in for Monday night's finance meeting for an additional $1 million out of ARPA funds. Hopefully that would go through and help ease some of this. And just to point out, I don't know if these are exact figures, so from 2016 up and through this cycle, it's about $11 million that we have spent on road resurfacing just out of issue 6. And I think that's just great. We've stuck to our guns, we've watched where those dollars were going and made sure they went to the streets. Thank you.
I agree. Thank you, Mr. Sear. Did you want to go through your streets, sir? Your streets total 800,000. Yikes.
Last time around, we had a running total that we could look at. Do we have that?
We could do that for next time.
Yeah.
Ms. McKill, we can do that for next time, Mr. Sear.
So, I mean, if things stand the way they are, and we do get a little bit, I want to do, Thornwood, Abbey to Thornwood, Rosewood, Thornwood to Georgetown.
Say that again, Mr. Sear. I didn't hear you. Say,
The last one was, Thornwood to Georgetown, Rosewood.
Okay.
Sherwood, west of 854. And Sandalwood, Georgetown, east of the cul-de-sac, based on the numbers. That's gonna be right about $300,000, though.
yes, sir. Is that all, Mr. Sear?
I'll take them all, but,
Oh, yes, sir.
you know, I gotta fit the numbers as best I can with what we have in front of us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So for issue 6, for the 6th ward, I don't even know where to begin. Woodford, from Gateway to West River. Garden, from Allen to Barbara. Pretty much takes me to, and then I can do a little street. Let's do Woodland at High intersection. That'll take me right to 270, and like you all said, hopefully we get more money. Are there any questions, comments, concerns about what we just went through? Okay. Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
It was moved by Mr. Oswald, second by Mrs. Simmons. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Thank you all for coming out tonight.
You're welcome. Yeah. I didn't even open my water bottle.